In 1999, the University of Tokyo opened its entrance exam with this. Problem 1. Part 1. State the definition of sine theta and cosine theta for a general angle theta. Part 2. Based on the definition you stated, prove these two formulas. That is the entire problem. No integrals, no trick. Just the formula every student in that room had used 1,000 times. And reportedly, most of them could not do it. This is the story of why the most familiar formula in trigonometry is a trap, and what it really takes to prove it. Some context. The University of Tokyo entrance exam is one of the hardest mathematics exams a high school student can face anywhere in the world. On the science track, 150 minutes, 6 problems, 120 points. Every answer fully written out, and every step graded by hand. And in 1999, this problem appeared as Problem 1, for the science track and the humanities track alike. The formula itself is the first thing you learn about trigonometric functions. Every student had used it thousands of times. Yet according to prep school analyses, the results were a disaster. A correct rate of around 20% is often quoted, though no official figure was ever published. So what went wrong? To see the trap, we first have to fall into it ourselves. Here is the proof a well-trained student writes first. Rotation matrices. Rotating the plane by an angle theta is a linear map, and its matrix looks like this. Now rotate by beta, then by alpha. 2 rotations in a row are 1 rotation by alpha plus beta, so multiply the matrices. Work out the product, compare the entries, and there they are. Both addition formulas in one line of algebra. Proof complete. Full marks, surely. Except, where did this matrix come from? Why is the first column cosine theta, sine theta, and why is the second column negative sine theta, cosine theta? Open any textbook and look at the derivation. To find where a rotation sends a general point, it takes the point at angle beta, rotates it by theta, and expands cosine of theta plus beta, using the addition formula. The matrix you used to prove the theorem was built from the theorem. The argument travels in a perfect circle. On this exam, that circle is worth nothing. Fine, says the student. Forget matrices. I know something more elegant. Euler's formula. E to the I theta equals cosine theta plus I sine theta. Multiply 2 of these, use the law of exponents, and the addition formulas fall out of the real and imaginary parts. It is beautiful. It is also worth noting here. Ask the same question as before. How do you prove Euler's formula? Every standard proof runs through the derivatives of sine and cosine, or through their power series. And how do you compute the derivative of sine? You need the limit of sine x over x, and the standard proof of that limit, and of the derivative itself, leans on the addition formula. The circle is longer this time, but it closes all the same. 2 elegant proofs, both circular. The problem is not that these students knew too little, it is that nobody had ever asked them what sine actually is. So let us answer part 1 properly. What is sine for a general angle? The definition most students reach for first is the right triangle, opposite over hypotenuse. But a right triangle only has angles between 0 and 90 degrees. That definition cannot even express sine of 200 degrees, or sine of a negative angle. On this exam, it reportedly cost points. The definition that works is the unit circle. Take the point 1, 0. Rotate it about the origin by the angle theta. Counterclockwise for positive theta, clockwise for negative. Wherever that point lands, its x-coordinate is defined to be cosine theta, and its y-coordinate is defined to be sine theta, for any theta. any number of full turns in either direction. Notice what this definition quietly carries inside it: the idea of rotation. And one fact about rotation that we will need on the record: rotating the plane about the origin does not change distances. 2 points, rotated together, stay exactly as far apart as they were. Definition stated. Now, and only now, are we allowed to prove something with it. Place 2 points on the unit circle, A at angle alpha, B at angle beta. By our definition, their coordinates are cosine alpha, sine alpha, and cosine beta, sine beta. Now measure the chord between them, twice. First, with coordinates. The distance formula, which is just the Pythagorean theorem, gives AB squared as the sum of the squared differences. Expand it. The squares of sine and cosine collapse to 1, twice, and we are left with 2 minus 2 times cosine alpha cosine beta plus sine alpha sine beta. Second, with geometry. In triangle OAB, 2 sides are radii of length 1, and the angle between them is alpha minus beta. The law of cosines, proved from the Pythagorean theorem, no trigonometric identities needed, gives AB squared as 2 minus 2 cosine of alpha minus beta. Same chord, same number. For our demo angles, the value is 0.244835, both ways to the last digit. Set the two expressions equal, cancel, divide by minus 2. And there it is. Cosine of alpha minus beta equals cosine alpha cosine beta plus sine alpha sine beta. No matrices, no complex numbers, nothing but the definition, the Pythagorean theorem, and one chord measured twice. One identity down. The exam wants the 2 plus formulas. We get them with 2 small tools, each read straight off the unit circle. Tool 1. Negative angles. Reflecting the circle across the x-axis sends theta to minus theta. The x-coordinate is untouched. The y-coordinate flips sine. So cosine is even, sine is odd, directly from the definition. Tool 2. Cofunctions. Reflecting across the diagonal line y equals x swaps the coordinates and sends theta to pi over 2 minus theta. So sine of theta equals cosine of pi over 2 minus theta. Again, directly from the definition. Now watch. In our cosine identity, replace beta by minus beta. Cosine of minus beta is cosine beta. Sine of minus beta is minus sine beta. Out comes the cosine plus formula. And for sine, write sine of alpha plus beta as cosine of pi over 2 minus alpha minus beta. Then expand with the identity we already proved. The cofunction pair turns it into sine alpha cosine beta plus cosine alpha sine beta. Both formulas. For every angle, positive, negative, beyond a full turn, because every step ran through the general angle definition. That is a complete answer. Full marks. Let us zoom out and draw the whole landscape, every statement we have touched, and an arrow whenever one is used to prove another. The valid proof is this green river. Euclid's axioms feed the Pythagorean theorem. Pythagoras feeds the distance formula on one bank and the law of cosines on the other. The unit circle definition contributes the cofunction and parity rules. Everything meets at cosine of alpha minus beta and flows into the addition theorems. Every arrow points forward. Nothing downstream is ever used upstream. That is what a proof is, a river that only flows one way. Now add the tools the students reached for. The rotation matrix, complex multiplication, Euler's formula. Watch the arrows. Each of them is derived from the addition theorems, and each was then used to prove the addition theorems. Round and round. These red loops are what circular reasoning looks like, drawn as a picture. But here is the twist, and it is the deepest idea in this story. These red loops are not wrong facts. Every equation on this map is true. The loops are wrong only because of where we chose to start. What happens if we start somewhere else? Here is a completely different answer to part 1. Forget circles. Define sine and cosine as these infinite series. This is not a trick. It is exactly how rigorous analysis textbooks build trigonometry from scratch. The series converge for every real number. No geometry required. Under this definition, multiply the series for the exponential of I alpha and I beta, a Cauchy product of absolutely convergent series. And the law of exponents becomes a theorem you can prove directly. Which means Euler's formula is now legitimate, and from Euler, the addition theorems fall out. Honestly this time. Watch the map. Same nodes, same arrows. We only move the golden marker, the thing called definition, from the unit circle to the power series. And the red loops turn green. The rotation matrix argument, the complex number argument, the very proofs that scored nothing in Tokyo become perfectly valid mathematics. Nothing about the world changed. Sine is still sine. What changed is where the river starts. Circular reasoning is not a property of an equation, it is a property of an equation and a choice of starting point. That is what the exam was really testing. Not whether you could push symbols, whether you knew where your mathematics begins. In 1999, in a Tokyo exam hall, students opened their booklets and found a formula they had known for years, with the one instruction nobody had prepared for. Prove it. Reportedly, most could not, though no official figure was ever published. The problem is widely interpreted as a warning against rote memorization. A formula you cannot ground is a formula you do not yet own. But the deeper lesson is quieter. Before you can prove anything, you must decide what your words mean. A definition is not bureaucracy. It is the place where your mathematics begins. The mathematician William Thurston put it this way: what we are producing is human understanding, not printouts of theorems, understanding. So the next time you meet a formula you have memorized, try the Tokyo question on it. Ask what every symbol means, exactly, and whether you could rebuild the formula from that meaning alone. That is the whole exam, and it never stops being worth taking. This has been Axiom Motion. Thank you for watching.